Conor McGregor is still without a fight, still has no idea what's happening with him, and it's sad because Conor is the most watched, talked about, famous mixed martial arts fighter ever. He is the biggest, he is the baddest name to come out of MMA ever. And unfortunately, the prime of Conor McGregor's career has been lost because of that fame, because of the money involved with it, because of the opportunities he took to get that fame and money outside of MMA, and because the game moved on. And now here we are in 2024 with Conor McGregor fighting, twice in the last 5 years, 6 years? He has lost out so much, yet still tries to fight. And the question we've all had is Conor McGregor's heart still in fighting? Can he still do this? And 35 is usually the age when MMA fighters start to fall off the hill. So he came out with an interview today trying to clear things up and tell the people where he is. This is Conor McGregor talking about his fight future in the UFC and potentially beyond. Let's take a look.
Because that's what people are tuning in for. They want to know when you're going to be back doing your thing. I want to talk movies because this is a bit of a crazy week for us to be having a conversation. Normally we're building up to a fight. Now we're building up to the launch of a film. March 21st, Roadhouse, with Jake Gyllenhaal. Mate, this is crazy.
It is pretty crazy.
Come on, let's be honest, eh?
I certainly am a lucky Irish or a lucky Irish son of a bitch because I landed on my feet here with this. This is as high as it gets in the Hollywood game, you know?
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, listen, you're doing a movie with Jake Gyllenhaal. That's amazing, right? That's amazing for Conor. But straight to Amazon is not what I think of when I think the biggest move in Hollywood. And again, that's no offense. Amazon, great distributor, all that. But I don't know that Conor is even focused on fighting because of stuff like I think Conor, when he says he wants to come fight, it's always contingent upon his acting or his other deals outside of it. So maybe if this thing does really well and people actually like it, I know it's a remake, but if people actually watch this thing, Conor might actually take a shot at Hollywood. I know he's always talked about he wants to get back in and stay active, but it just hasn't been the case. Whether it's acting, whether it's obviously the injury you can't plan for, but it'll always be something. That's what I think.
You are one of the most confident people I've ever come across. Especially,
I'm Conor McGregor.
Exactly.
You know?
But when you step into a...
We know, buddy. It's going to be wild, honestly, to see in a couple of years where Conor is not long gone, but has gone out of the game truly. Like he's just retired. For people to rediscover what he was in 2014 and 2013, right? When he was coming into MMA and how confident he was. No one had seen anything like that. The stuff that Conor was saying, at least in MMA, you'd seen it with Muhammad Ali back in the day. And you'd seen it a couple of flashes of it here and there with Chael Sonnen, but no one had seen that level of confidence to not only tell people what he was about to do in that fight, but what he was going to do in the future, the 2 belts, right? The exact way he was going to knock out Jose Aldo, the wordplay, just the swagger. And everybody was like, oh, it's a character, he's a joker. No, that's who Conor was. And that was the big difference. He wasn't playing any kind of character. He was just confident as a motherfucker, bro.
What goes on inside? Are you just comfortable straight away, or is there a moment in your head where you're thinking, right, okay, there's a different headspace that I've got to get to here?
I surprised myself as I was able to get into the role, Handy. I was able to get into the role. What
the fuck did he just say? This is another issue with Conor, man. As he's gotten older, he's gotten progressively more Irish. I can't even understand what he said. I heard it the second time.
That I've got to get to here.
I surprised myself as I was able to get into the role, Handy. I was able to get into the role. It came out okay, I think. I wouldn't say like versus the other actors in the movie that like I'm an actor. I think it's evident that I'm not an actor per se, but I'm definitely show business.
A devilishly flamboyant.
That's not a bad way to look at it. I mean, while Conor sounds like he's drifting off into sleep when he's speaking there, that's not a terrible way to look at his acting chops. Like, of course he's not an actor, but he just is himself cranked up, which we thought we would see. When we watched that trailer, we were all like, yeah, no, Conor's not acting. That's just Conor. Because that's what he needs to be. You can't make Conor McGregor act. You can make him Conor McGregor in a certain role. That's what I think it's going to be. Sensei Shizzler. I think it's going to be perfect because of Conor doing exactly that.
So the next step then, I anticipate, is getting back in that octagon.
Yeah, like I said, I have 2 fights left on my UFC contract. We're still in the first quarter of 2024. I've got this workload on me right now because I've got the promotion of the movie. I've got St. Patrick's festivities with the alcohol. After that, it's a closed door. So I get to go in and close the door and, map my plan. And then gym, home, gym, home, gym, home.
You can tell he's frustrated by it. There's something there that I want to highlight. People always ask about Conor McGregor and influencer boxing. Like, could he fight KSI? Could he go and fight Manny Pacquiao over in Saudi? He has 2 fights left on his deal. And you are out of your fucking mind if you think Dana White is not going to make him fulfill those 2 fights, but also is going to do it in a quick fashion. That's not going to happen. He is going to fight once this year and once next year. That's what I think. And I hate to say it like that, but I think the UFC knows just as well as Conor does that this is always a bargaining struggle between them and him because he is their number 1 guy. Even now at 36, haven't fought in 3 years, he's their highest selling pay-per-view draw. So for them, unless they renegotiate after this or before this Chandler fight, if Conor's like, I'm trying to fight out my deal, UFC's gonna be like, all right, cool. And they're going to slow play that to where he is not out of that deal by the time they think he is still a pay-per-view draw. Because Francis, this just happened with Francis. Francis took just a complete shitty paycheck for 2 fights to fight out his deal so he could be a free agent and go do what he did. Francis made a lot of money. He didn't sell very well, but he made a lot of money. The UFC has to know that Conor wants to do the same thing, at least have the ability to do the same thing. So I think this is going to be, and it's probably has been, the reason why Conor hasn't fought is they can't get together on renegotiating and getting him a longer-term deal. Conor's like, I don't want that. And the UFC's like, all right, cool, well, tough. We're going to do some other stuff in the meantime.
And I hope we'll get some clarity with a date, and I can push towards it. I'm sure we will get something in by year end. You know, that's what I'm hoping.
You flirted in the past with International Fight Week, which is the end of June. Mm-hmm. Is that realistic for you?
Yeah, for sure. I would like that. I would love that. If they give me that and then we can go ahead and straight away, for sure.
That sphere in Las Vegas looks good as well, doesn't it? To maybe, the big ball that they've created there.
Mate. You did call for that also. That would be great for me. June 29th and then the sphere. And then, then what? Then what happens then? I don't know. And I'm sure, I wonder, do they know?
This is what I was talking about. Conor wants his 2 fights, and then what? Right? Then what? And that's the whole question that none of them can answer and why we're in this position. I'm sure they can make 2 fights for Conor and make 2 really big fights. Like he said, him versus Chandler, you win that. Him versus Poirier, the trilogy, or the quad trilogy, whatever. He loses that. You got the Nate Diaz trilogy. And in Conor's mind, okay, I'm set. I want to go do what I want. Problem is the UFC is not looking at Conor and going, yeah, we'll give you your 2 fights and then that's it. No, bro. He's still too much of a draw for them to lose and for someone else to gain for them to do that. Which is why we're sitting in this freaking purgatory. And I hate it for Conor because it looks like it's just taking the life out of him. And Nate Diaz spoke about this too. Let me see if I can find the tweet. This was me for years before Conor even got here. They want you to die before you get out of these contracts. It's up to you to make something pop. No one going to help you but you. Free Conor. It's St. Patty's Day in this bitch. And this was on what Conor said on the Mac Life. I was hoping for a December date, then a January date. Then it keeps getting pushed back. Then I lose interest and stop training for a while. Not stop training. I'm always training, but stop fully training. And start drinking a little bit. So I'm going back, regroup, fully tested, and ready to rock. The date's going to come, and then I'll be ready to rock. This is what I'm talking about. So it's like a never-ending perpetual cycle where Conor wants to fight. And I know when he's training, he's committed. They can't get this deal done to where it feels like the UFC's happy and Conor's happy, so that they break talks, they try to revisit it, and it's just going to keep doing that, bro. These guys, when they're not doing their thing, and they're not in rhythm, and they're not chasing that passion, this is one of the most heartbreaking things about combat sports. Guys go off the fucking deep end, because we're dealing with some of the most erratic personalities as it is. And Conor is at the top of that list. I have to imagine that mentally, this has just done him in for the last couple of years. I don't care what you think about Conor's extracurriculars. Just give some insight into the man's life over the last couple of years, and think about what mentally he's had to go through, physically he's had to go through, the frustration of not being able to fight, everyone saying, oh, you don't want to fight, you don't want to. And I'm sure that's not the case. And yeah, you have to feel for Chandler too, but I'm not going to blame Conor for it. I'm not going to blame Conor and be like, Conor's the one, Chandler's going to have he's wasting Chandler's career. No, dude, that's the UFC.
What about opponents? Who do you want to fight?
It's good to see Poirier get that win the weekend. That makes this the quadrilogy, and we'll say the real trilogy, the finish of it, to put an end to it, to put a finish to it. That is a huge bout right now. So I anticipate that
he has to fight Chandler first. You can't come back and walk into the Poirier fight. Poirier will smash Conor right now. I think Michael Chandler is a far easier fight than Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier, you could argue, at this point, has surpassed Conor's striking level.
Obviously, I've got the Diaz trilogy. That's what I had said for the Sphere. There was cold water put on that publicly. Off the bat, and I wasn't happy with that. So I'm not that. I mean, I need discussion or conversation, because if I lose interest, I'm not getting anything back, and I just drift off, my man. So I hope I can get something in and get dialed in.
That right there is the hardest realization, is that The UFC no longer needs Conor McGregor. That's the realization that I think everybody is going to come to when they see Conor, who used to rule MMA, just call his shots. I'm going to beat Jose Aldo, then jump up and fight Rafael dos Anjos out of nowhere for the 155 title. Cool. Rafael gets hurt. Diaz. Then I want Diaz at 170 again. Then go and let me get Eddie Alvarez, right? Then I'm coming back. It was just, he could pretty much do whatever. And now the UFC has all the cards. They have all of them. Conor is upset, like when he came out and suggested he wanted to do something at the Sphere, and they were like, nah. That's how it is now. Conor is just, unfortunately, in negotiations, and why he's so frustrated. To them, he's not anything, I want to say special, because he is special, but he's not anything that is making them shift business for him anymore. They don't need it. That's the sad part about this. The UFC has just been like, all right, we got ESPN, bro. We're not going to let you go do anything else, but we'll put you in when we can find a spot for you.
It's the opponent doesn't matter. I just wish for a nice run up, you know, a bit of transparency, and let me go over it again.
Just finally, back to the middle.
That a bit of transparency, as in the UFC is keeping Conor McGregor in the dark about what they want to do with it. It's crazy to me they don't have plans for Conor McGregor. Again, it's not just the game that we're seeing being played. Like, yes, Conor's your biggest star, but get him on a card. It's the game behind the game. What do you do with Conor in the long run that they're playing?
That's rock and roll, Adam. That's rock and roll.
I want to see Notorious do his thing.
Man. God bless you, sir. Thank you so much.
You know what would be the absolute scene? Is if Conor came back, beats Chandler. I don't know about the Diaz fight, because Diaz, I don't even know if he'll be back. But then he goes, you know what? Gaethje's there. Max Holloway's there. Give me a short of that BMF belt. Yeah, it's the BMF belt. Instead of going for Dustin, he goes straight to the top of the food chain. Islam Makhachev. If he beats Makhachev, Conor gets on that microphone. Surprise, surprise! The king is back, and there's one man that scurried away from the sport. Yeah, bring that rah. That's what he would do. Bring that rah. And he calls out Khabib, and he'd have to make it personal too. You know, like, I'm not gonna do it, but he'd have to make it personal. Talking about family and all that, it'd have to be personal. And that would be absolutely fucking monstrous. Conor versus Khabib 2. And Khabib coming back would be, you know, I don't know how many pay-per-views, dude. They could honestly break their first one in the rematch. They could. So there's Conor McGregor. Listen, I think Conor gets such a bad rap. Like, obviously, he's done some stupid shit. And yes, he is not living the life of a fighter outside of the cage, right? He's doing a little bit too much drinking, probably a little bit too much of the you know, hard white powder, and he's just not in fight mode, fight focused. He's not. But I can't blame Conor McGregor for that, at least not fully, because yes, the injury was detrimental, but also right now it feels more like Conor is in a frozen state. The UFC has locked him down, and they've almost locked him out of even being in control of his career. I think the UFC is to blame here, and you saw Nate Diaz say it. You've heard other fighters say it, and it's the fight game, right? You sign these contracts, you're going to have to honor them, but only on the UFC's terms. For once in his whole career, Conor McGregor doesn't really control anything. He doesn't get to do what the double champ wants. So I think he fights once this year. I hope it's more than that, but it's just getting started with this UFC versus Conor drama. I don't know what happens next, but I guess we'll find out.